on Daniel Ricciardo.
Told you I'd win one.
So, Daniel Joseph Ricciardo, I know your full name, and I know how to pronounce your name. A lot of people, still, even in the team, call you Ricciardo. Have you not sort of taken them to one side and said, word in your ear?
Numerous times. We've had like pub brawls over it.
You'd think, actually, you know, you're like a highly paid member of the team. You'd think they'd be on top of that.
Yeah.
So, taking you right back to the beginning, and then we're going to take a little journey through your racing career to where you are on this very fine day in Bahrain.
Yeah.
Your father, born in Italy, went down under.
Yep.
You were born, he met your mother there, she's also of Italian descent. And so west coast of Australia, in Perth. So, you know, you're feeling...
Best coast.
Best coast. So, you know, you've got Italian blood, but you're an Australian-born boy. So how do you deal with that mix?
It's a pretty good mix, I would say. I've got the passion, the food, etiquette of an Italian person with the cool style of an Australian. So it brings in quite a good mix behind the wheel of a race car.
So your father raced?
Father raced a bit, so
to a reasonable level?
I mean, to the level he could probably afford, basically. So he raced in Australia. I know he went to England as like a late teenager to do the Jim Russell driving school.
Up at Donington?
Yeah, in Donington, exactly. So I think he spent 2 years in England, I think in the late 70s. And yeah, and then so his passion for racing was strong. And I think his initial intention was to stay there and to try and make some form of racing career, but didn't really have anything other than the dream. You know, didn't have the support or funding. But then came home, basically started his own business, earth moving, and then eventually when he made some money from his business, he then spent that, you know, on his hobby, which was then racing. So I grew up in mum's arms as a kid at the racetrack, and I guess maybe growing up as a baby with the noise, the smell of race cars, maybe that's where I got the love for it. But I was certainly drawn to it.
Now, if I follow correctly, your karting career started maybe a little bit older than what would be the norm back in Europe. So, you know, was that for any particular reason that you didn't get into karting so early? Was it just, you know, father building up enough funds to sponsor you, or was it no local kart tracks, or what was the story there?
I mean, it was still relatively young. I guess I was 9 when I started racing, but yeah, I've had some teammates 4 years old when they started. I think as well, like I had a lot of other interests. You know, I was playing a lot of other sports, and then I don't know. For me, I always loved the racing, but I think for a lot of it, I wanted to do rental kart. I wanted to try, obviously, in a rental kart, but I was never tall enough. So I had to wait, I think, till I was already maybe 7 or 8, till I was just tall enough to get in a kart. And then I drove it the first time. I was just like, for me, it was like freedom.
You can remember that first time?
Yeah, indoor go-kart track. And I was just like, this is amazing. I got all this power. And I get, sense of freedom at my disposal at such a young age. And then I left there, I was just like, Dad, you got to take me again. Like, I want to go every weekend. And then eventually, I guess we went a few more times, and I was just like, can you please buy me a go-kart? I just want to, it wasn't even I want to race, it was just like, I just want to go after school. If you can take me, I just want to drive. I love that feeling.
And you really made your mark in Formula 3. That's a standout championship, a championship that's been won by the greats of the past. So was that the moment where you thought, okay, this is more than just a hobby that I'm quite good at. I'm absolutely targeting Formula 1. You start getting Red Bull support. You know, that was still in its infancy, this young driver program. So it wasn't like just because you get the support, it means you're going to Toro Rosso. It was still very much feeling your way.
Yeah, I mean, at that stage, Seb Vettel was the only guy that had really made the program work. And I think at that stage, he still wasn't a world champion or anything. But for me, that was, once I got signed with the Red Bull junior team, that was like, okay, you know, that's when I really started believing in myself as well. I was like, okay, I've got, you know, an ability here. Now, the financial side of things is being taken care of, so that's one big stress out of the way, and it's like now I can just race and do everything I want to do, and if I'm good enough, you know, the team do have the resources to then keep pushing me, so that was a big moment in my career, and I grew up a lot from that.
The good side about the Red Bull Young Driver program is, as you say, you can focus on the driving. The big challenge is dealing with Dr. Helmut Marko.
Yeah.
Now, when I was racing, you know, I kind of passed that point. I was no longer a young driver, so I didn't have to really engage too much in his very strict regime. how did you, find that those early days? Because you were going from boy to man, and having to deal with a guy who famously, is quite brutal when it comes to, telling you if he's not happy.
Yeah, there was some phone calls which you don't want to answer, but it makes you, exactly. You grow up quickly. You it turns you into a man a lot quicker, I think. And the good thing, even though, as I said, there was maybe some phone calls or conversations which kind of sucked because he's telling you how it is, I was still able to always come out of it and kind of respect or appreciate the conversation we had, because I was like, okay, he might have just told me I should have done this or have to do this or I'm out kind of thing. But I was like, he's being real, he's being honest, he's only stating the facts. Yeah, I could have won that race and I let it slip, or I could have done this or that. So he's only doing it to make me get more out of myself. And I was like, well, he's telling me this because he believes in me. So I was able to take more of a positive spin on it and be like, okay, he cares, this is cool. So yeah, whenever you see, as a kid especially, those first few years of the junior team, when you see Dr. Marco come up on your phone, it's one number, you're like, oh, unless you've had a good weekend, still he'll find something to pick at you. But it's like, oh man, you put the volume down a little bit because you're like, I don't really want to hear this too loud. You hold the phone a little bit further away.
Well, one call I can imagine you must have been really pleased to receive is when you got the call up for HRT. They weren't a great team, but it gave you your debut at the British Grand Prix in 2011. So you knew it wasn't a great car, but you just took the opportunity.
Yeah, that was completely unexpected. He called me and I kind of sensed something was going to happen, but I had no idea what. And then he's like, yeah, so you're going to race in Silverstone next week. And I was like, okay. I was like, you mean F1? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right. He's like, with HRT. And I was confused, but I was like, amazing. I was like, look, I'm probably going to come second last or last, but it's F1. Like, this is now another step closer.
It's sensational, speedy Silverstone for round 9 of this year's Formula One World Championship. And welcome to you, new boy, Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo take no further part in qualifying, and that's where they will start on the grid for tomorrow's British Grand Prix.
That was pretty cool, and I remember it was cool that I had mum and dad there, and I told them, I was like, yeah, I'm racing next week in Silverstone, and they were just like ecstatic. They didn't care what team it was, it was just an opportunity.
It's a short notice though, a week call-up. Most people get a whole sort of winter to bed themselves in, do the testing. So you literally go to the factory, do a seat fitting, no testing, straight to the race.
So no, I don't even know if they had a factory. Seriously, so I went, I remember that week there was just a whole lot of phone calls. I had a race in Budapest, I'm pretty sure, for World Series. So I was like on a plane. During that weekend, I was calling HRT, the people. I'm like, hi, I'm Daniel. Yeah, I'm racing for you next week. When's a good time to come? And so I did all the seat fit in that at Silverstone at the track. And yeah, that whole week was just like, I was running around like a headless chook, just trying to, fit in basically. But yeah, I can still remember it. I still remember the driver's parade and all that. And I remember Mark said a nice thing to me. I think he was lying, but he said a nice thing to me. He goes, Mark Webber I'm talking about. And he's like, yeah, there was a few Australian flags, in the Silverstone grandstand. And he goes, there's a few more now for you as well. And I was like, yeah, right. Like, they're all for you. No one really knew who I was yet. Yeah. But it was nice for him to give me a bit of encouragement before the race. So that was an interesting week.
So you get through that experience, you get onto the proper young driver program at Toro Rosso, you establish yourself, great speed, you start to
Great looks.
Great looks. Listen, that's undeniable. We're in high definition here. People know that. They can
really?
See it. Yeah.
Oh.
That's so good-looking boy. You're growing up in public, really understanding the industry of Formula One. So that Toro Rosso sort of finishing school, if you like, that's not something you regret at all. You're absolutely sure that was the right place to go ahead of getting into the big team at Red Bull Racing.
Yeah, I feel like the couple years at Toro Rosso were good. I feel like it was enough for then, my promotion to the top team. But looking back, it would have been nice to have been in the Red Bull of 2013, the car that won a lot more races than it has in the last few years. But, obviously it was cool to get that. It's a bit like every promotion was awesome. When I got the call to be promoted to Toro Rosso, I was like, amazing. I can maybe fight for points. And then after 2 years there, I was like, I was craving a race-winning seat. And then Red Bull obviously told me their decision to promote me. And I was just like, yeah, it felt like the right time. And then obviously 2014 was a massive year for me. It was a breakthrough. So I felt like I ran then with that opportunity.
You'll forever be seen as the man that, to all the hardcore Red Bull fans, drove Sebastian Vettel out of the team. You know, you must feel guilty for that because he struggled. Yeah, he struggled that year with the new technologies, and you just took it, won some races, and really had the measure of him.
Yeah, that was a fun year, and you know what? Like coming into it, I still didn't know deep down how I was going to go, whether I would be quicker, slower, but what I did know is I wasn't going to be half a second slower. Like I really knew I could be competitive against Seb, and not take anything away from Seb. I just obviously believed in my ability, and I was like, if I get the basics right and I get comfortable in this environment, in the team, I genuinely think I can challenge him.
Vettel now will have the inside line for the next chicane. Does Ricciardo try around the outside? He cuts back to the inside. He's done it down the inside. Sebastian Vettel could do nothing.
But did I think I'd win 3 and him win none? Probably not. But once the ball started rolling, then yeah, I wasn't too surprised then.
You had some standout victories during the course of that year.
Oh, fun.
Budapest, for me, your pass down into turn 1 was a display of exceptional commitment.
Daniel Ricciardo started in 4th. He's got a little bit of a run going down towards the first corner. He's down the inside. Oh, and he outbreaks the Ferrari. He's got more grip. He holds the apex, and he makes it look so simple. Daniel Ricciardo has taken the lead of the Hungarian Grand Prix, and he looks all set for his 2nd victory this season.
You could tell you were driving with passion, with fun. That's something you've carried both in and out of the car. Your personality is something that really comes through as an inspiration to the young generation that this is a fun industry to be part of.
Yeah, and I think my personality has always been like this. I feel like, I don't know, because it's my dream, to be here. So I'm like, if I'm not enjoying it now, then what am I ever going to enjoy? And yeah, I wanted to appreciate the position I'm in and yeah, show people that I really do love it. This is what living a dream looks like. And yeah, and I feel it reflected well then in the driving. I was enjoying the racing, and I was glad. 2014 was a year that I could show more of my personality through the races. It wasn't just the smile, there was like a tenacity behind that.
And is that when you picked up the sort of honey badger monocle that you have the honey badger? I don't even know what one looks like.
Yeah.
I guess it walks around with a tub of honey, or does it get its paw or its tongue in a hive?
They just go straight into hives, like straight in. They cop thousands of stings, but the honey's sweeter than the sting. I guess the story behind the honey badger was people that knew me away from the sport knew that, yeah, I'm happy-go-lucky and all this, but when you kind of push me on something that I feel is mine or something, I feel strongly about, then, it's not a split personality, but it's just there's another side that comes out. And yeah, I felt like before 2014, everyone thought he's just a happy kid. Yeah, he can drive fast, but he doesn't have that real winner's mentality or that real fire. And I knew I had it in me, so it was nice to show that.
Well, one of the upsides, downsides of playing in a professional sport is that people get to see your emotions. The good when you win, the bad when things don't go well. And the only time I've really seen you with your shoulders down was in Monaco. You had that pole, leading the Grand Prix, it slipped away. A rare mistake from within the team. And that really looked like it took you a few days to sort of get over that.
And they're late! Oh, can you believe it?
They changed, they had a set of softs out there and they've gone and they've changed to the Ultra.
So, how tight is this going to be?
I think pretty tight. There's Hamilton. He's going to get it.
Poor Daniel Ricciardo from pole position has to settle for 2nd place.
Yeah, that was, and I was amazed actually how many people after the race said something similar to what you just said. They're like, wow, like you were really devastated. And I was, in my mind, because I know me, I was like, well, what do you expect? Of course, like this means a lot to me. But obviously a lot of the world hadn't seen that yet, hadn't seen how much it meant to me, hadn't seen, they'd just seen me smiling a lot of the time. So, apart from the disappointment of that result, a lot of good came out of that, where especially the team saw, firsthand how much this means to me. It doesn't control my whole life, but sure, it's a big part of my life.
Now, you managed to get another victory after, you got that other win, so you're sitting there in 4 wins. you've brought the shoey to the podium, which is a pretty gross experiment. You know, this is not something I ever heard you talk about before. Did it just come to you in a moment of madness? You thought, hey, I haven't got a glass. I'm not drinking out of the bottle.
That's too hygienic. No, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I felt like F1 can sometimes do with a bit of a shoulder massage, you know, it can do with loosening up. So I wasn't sure how the reaction would be. You know, I thought people are either going to look at me like, who's this idiot kind of thing. But they embraced it so much more than I thought. I think one of the priceless moments was Rosberg's face on the podium in Malaysia when he tried it. You literally saw the disgust on his face after he tried it. And that was, for me, that was a win. That was a win. That was cool.
Now, you have had some pretty handy teammates in Formula One. We spoke about Seb earlier. You've got Max Verstappen. So for the first time in your career, instead of being the sort of young charger in the team, you've got a young charger on the team.
Yeah.
A lot of talking. Well, yeah, your words.
Grey? Is there some greys there?
I can give you some help with that if you need
bit of grace?
Yeah, I can help you. But the paddock is buzzing with the fact that this is arguably the strongest driver pairing in Formula One. So how has that sort of changed the way you approach the workplace? Because, let's be honest, racing drivers are selfish. You're always trying to get that last little thing, even if it's not pure performance, if it's psychological performance and it's on the table, you want to take it so your teammate can see it's no longer available.
Look, it's cool. I like being up against a challenge, you know, and I feel Seb was a big challenge. I loved that. You know, he was the experience challenge, and now I've got the other side of the spectrum, which is Max.
I cannot believe that Max Verstappen's going to win this race, but he is the youngest ever winner in Formula One. Max Verstappen wins in Spain.
He's now the young rising star of the sport, hottest thing. So they're both different challenges, but again, if I use the right perspective, it can be something that can fuel me very well.
It does seem that you guys are feeding off each other, because there's, you know, the circuits and conditions where you're leading the way, the circuits and conditions where, you know, he's undeniably quick.
Verstappen makes the move on his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. So can Verstappen now chase after Lewis Hamilton?
At the moment, when you don't have a winning car, it's kind of fine because you're pushing each other forward. The minute you have a consistently challenging car for wins, that's when the old sleeves get rolled up. Yeah. And it sounds like you're ready for the fight. Oh, you've been working out.
I'm ready. Like, I so want that. And, you know, we got asked last year, it's like, if Red Bull have a championship winning car, how's your rivalry going to be? You know, will there be friction? And I'm kind of like, bring on the friction, because that means we're going to be fighting for a title. So, look, I don't expect it to blow up like maybe some other rivalries in the past, but if it does, then so be it. But, you know, I think we've had some good on-track battles at the moment already, even last year, which, you know, whether there was some team orders at some races, which I felt we played well by. There was, you know, the battle eventually for the win in Malaysia, which we played well by. So, you know, I think we've handled it, some pretty high pressure situations well already. But look, I love it. I love it. You know, bring on the competition. He's proven he's very hungry. I've proven that. I think we're both arguably the most probably aggressive racers on the grid. I think we pull off the most spectacular moves. It's an awesome combination, and you know, now we've got to use that to our advantage and use it kind of as one to bring the team closer to that world title. And obviously we're not there at the moment, but yeah, that's what we're going to try and do.
So in terms of this very public environment where success is celebrated, failure, you know, you're reminded of on every occasion, in terms of your, you know, young boy in Australia, getting the bug, dreaming of Formula One, what are the bits that have fulfilled those dreams, and what are the bits that actually, you know, the general public wouldn't really be aware behind the scenes is a bit of a slog?
I think the slog is time. I would say it's not just rocking up at a race weekend, rocking up Friday, leaving Sunday, and then the next 2 weeks you've got to just do whatever you want, train, stay fit, eat well, whatever. There's so many other events and things where, yeah, we spend easily half our life at airports or on airplanes, and I think, yeah, it makes you appreciate free time a lot more, but that's one thing which you're deprived of is I guess your own time. Yeah, some of the pros with these things is that, yeah, you get to meet amazing, interesting people, successful people in other walks of life, and yeah, there's a lot of life experiences to take from all this. It's weird, this sport you can have, it's probably a lot of sports, but this sport I feel in particular, you can have so many lows, or like, not lows, but disappointments, because there's other factors, there's mechanical, you know, you are relying on other variables, but then you get that first win or that first podium or that amazing race, and it's like, that feeling is amazing. It really is. I don't know if it's because the sport is so complex that to win a race, you know, you need to be the best guy on the day, but you also need best pit stop, best strategy. You need the car to tick, you know, perfectly for the 60 odd laps. So it, like, that whole emotion is huge. And yeah, standing on the podium in Montreal on June 8th, 2014 for the first time on the top step was like everything I dreamed it would be. So yeah, it lived up for sure.
Take yourself forward 10 years, you'll be arguably just past your prime. What would fulfill you? What would satisfy you?
Let's say 10 years now, I'm at 37 and I've just won my first world title at 37, then I'd probably say, see you, catch you later. Yeah. But hopefully I've won more by then. So that's the plan. Like, ideally, if I'm to paint a perfect picture, I win them sooner and get out sooner, as opposed to, you know, hanging around longer to then win one. But hopefully I don't have grey hair by then.
Having the Italian heritage, is there any part of you is, you know, if I could drive a Ferrari, you know, that'd be cool for your father because he was born in Italy. But for you, you know, you're very much an Australian man with Italian heritage. So is that something that at all ticks your box, or is it just very much, what's the most competitive car? How do I win these races? Yeah,
I'm not too probably sentimental about everything, the whole journey, or I don't have like the vision of, yeah, the fairy tale, you know, Italian background, doing it with an Italian team. It's more, especially now because I haven't won a championship, it's more just I want to be the place that's going to give me the chance to win. If one day it is Ferrari, then that's where I will try and target. But yeah, it's more about the winning than the story.
Sure. Well, I'm sure you're going to win a lot more, and
so.
There'll be some championships along the way. I think the most appropriate way for a confident entertainer with guns to wrap this up is you look down the lens and say what you want to say to your adoring fans. Have you got any?
Let's make America great again.
Can you do that?
Yeah, find something you love doing in life. I think, you know, we're only here once, so make it worthwhile, and yeah, have fun more importantly.
Inspirational words, and what has made me realize is I don't want to be here.
Alrighty.